Okay, Kumlen of Matkamota. We're on a sort of Batavis, and we're up to the Mishnah that Ayin Ahmed Aleph. And we're continuing the discussion about the shared responsibility and capacity between the father of the daughter, if she's a Naira still, up to the age of 12 and a half, and her fiance, the Chassan, by an Arusa, they both together have to cancel her neder. And then we had these many cases yesterday of where depends when we say that if one of them passes away, the other one shoulders entire responsibility. And basically, the father has more capacity than the husband because the father was the sole annuller of these vows until she got engaged. So if afterwards it goes back to him, if the chassan is the new interloper, and therefore he doesn't get ever the full powers while he is only a chassan. So it says in Mishnah, Mesa of, and everything we learned was in the Brisa. The Mishnah is more general. Mesa of, the father dies, if the father dies, it does not then automatically go to the husband. The husband can't say, okay, I can step in now and I'll take both, I'll represent the father as well as myself. It doesn't work that way. But the other way around, the husband dies, it does then transfer to the father, that the father has total control. This is from one perspective, or in one respect, the father is more powerful than the husband. But talking about contrasting the different authorities that they have and the abilities, there's one advantage that the husband to be has over the father. That is, remember, the father ends his control over his daughter once she reaches the age of 12 and a half. She's a Naira, up to Naira Marasa. And by saying a husband could be different. The husband, even if she turns 12 and a half, if she becomes a Begeris, the husband, they're engaged, the husband can still annul her Nedarim. Says the Gemara. Shabal Meife Yafe, David Echa, another matter, Yafe Koyach Habal Mekoyach, the Koyach of the husband is better than the Koyach of the father. Shabal Meife Bebaga, the husband can annul the neder of his wife even though she's over 12 and a half, but the father can't. Says the Gemara, my time, what's the reason? It says what is the reason that we say that it does not move or transfer to the husband? The father died. Why doesn't it transfer to the husband? Because we just said that if the husband dies, it transfers to the father. Shouldn't be the converse as well. If the father dies, it should transfer to the husband. Says the Gemara, my time, what's the reason? I'm across the pasuk benureha beisavir. While she's a Naira, she's always attached to beisavir, to her father's household. That means even the father passed away, she's still part of the father's household. It does not yet become fully part of the and parcel of the husband to be. Says Gemara, fine, but this makes about how do we know that it transfers to the shus of the father? The father now can unilaterally the neder. Amar Rabba says, it says the very pasuk we used previously, it says double haya. If she is engaged to, and we'll establish before the pasuk we're talking about engagement, if he's engaged to a person and she has nedarim on her. So how do we learn from that pasuk that it goes to the father? So makish koid mehavoya shnia lekoid mehavoya shena. Hoya see is that we learned last time. Each time it says Hoya means getting engaged. So she got engaged twice. Hoya see. So the first time she got engaged, why she got engaged the second time? Because the husband to be is no longer the husband to be. Divorced, died. And so therefore we compare the next engagement to the first one. Just like prior to the first engagement, the father unilaterally is able to annul the Nedarim. Prior to a second engagement, post the first engagement, the father is the one unilaterally annuls Nedarim. There's no one else that he has to join with. So makish koid mehavoya shnila koid mehavoya d'shena. Just like koid mehavoya d'shena. Prior to the first time she got engaged of meifel l'chuda, the father unilaterally can annul Nedarim. Af koid mehavoya shnia, or so too before the second engagement of meifel l'chuda, the father on his own. Says the Gemara. Amo, let us say as follows. Prior to the first engagement, there was nobody else at all ever had any contact with his daughter. So obviously the father can unilaterally do it. But after the first engagement, um, okay, and even after the first engagement, there's no one connected to the daughter, the father controlled. But what happens if she made a vow during that first engagement? So there was a moment where there were two people involved in the moment of the Nedarim. So how do you know that once that second person is gone, it automatically fully transfers to the father? Maybe in that case, well, the father was only limited to 50%. The other percent, there's no one there to remove. The father can no longer annul that neder. So the Gemara, hey, but why don't you say, those nedarim that the first husband to be never had any connection to, for example, the one that took place prior, okay, just like the father could have done it before, the father does it after that person passed away. But if, let's say, during that engagement period, she made a neder which is suitable for, which is for the others as well. And the chassan heard about it, because we already had it before. The chassan didn't hear about it, even though it happened during his short engagement period. It doesn't mean anything. It's only if he heard about it. So then, as soon as he heard about it, the Torah gave him till the rest of the day that he can annul it. So how do you know in that case? And therefore the father then was limited only to 50% annulment, because the chassan has the other 50%. Maybe in that case, maybe the father can no longer really be made for it anymore, because once he was reduced to 50%, that's it. And the other person is gone, he can no longer do it. So you know how, even if you're going to tell me that this whole hekesh of the second engagement to the first engagement is only talking about a case where the Uris never was connected at all, and you're telling me just like before the father was totally in control, so too after the father total control, because there was nobody else was involved in these particular Nedarim, because it happened prior to the engagement, even during the engagement with the husband to be never heard about it. Then after that you learn out from the very positive that since there's only basically involved, the Urus was never involved, he didn't hear about it. So therefore, we already know from that passing. What do you need this? What is this hekesh of the second engagement to the first engagement add to this whole the question? It must be the chiddush is that even though there was a chassan in between, and he heard about the neder, and there was a time, a short time, a few hours, where there were two people involved in that annulment. 50% the chassan, 50% the father. Then the chassan died, and the Torah says, even so, the fact is, right now there is nobody else involved, and it goes back to the father. That's when you need the hekesh of these two. You tell me the father is stronger than the husband. Hey, Chidami, what are we talking about? When do we say you're telling me that the husband has the capacity that even though his fiance is now is over 12 and a half years old, she's a begeris, where the father no longer has any control, but the chassan does. So what are we talking about? If he got engaged to her while she was still in Naira and her father was in control and he joined, and then later the father's out of the picture because now she's 12 and a half and the husband has the right to annul it. No, he doesn't. Merdi, very simply. Misa if what happens if the father dies? He loses all his rights, obviously. He cannot pass it on to his children that they should cancel their sister's neder. That koyach, that right, dies with it. So just like death takes him out of control. And so too, she becomes 12 and a half years old. The father no longer has control. So only once she's an Ira. So just like when he dies, we just established in the Mishnah. If the father dies, does his right get transferred to the chassan? No, it doesn't. As I said in our Mishnah, the father dies, the chassan cannot annul his wife's neder because the father's gone. So so too the other way of releasing the father or severing the ties of the father to the daughter, which is begeris, the husband does not have the right to annul it. So therefore, what do you tell me that the husband suddenly has the unilateral right to annul his wife's neder? She's now over 12 and a half years old. Nowhere, so nobody can annul it. So must be talking about, can't be talking about that she started out being united because in middle, somewhere in the middle, the father got released, so to the husband. The husband cannot be stronger than the father in this particular case. Talk about a case, he got engaged to her when she was already 13 years old, over 12 and a half years old. And there was never a father involved in the first place over here. She was already over 12 and a half years old. And so therefore, and the chiddush we're talking about over here is that even though they didn't get married, right? He didn't get married. It's only an order, so how can he have 100% control? Talking about, we had the beginning of Ksudis that we give 12 months, 12 months, and after 12 months, even they don't get married, the husband now has to support and everything else. And because the husband, the chassan has to support his wife, he also now has the right to annul her nedarim. It's like tit for tat. That's what the whole chiddush is. We already learned that later. It says habageres. It says over there. It says in the Mishnah, habageres sheshasi b'chaydish. Habageres that waited 12 months, and 12 months. And this is the view of Rabbi Lezer. And the husband is chayiv to take care of her. After 12 months, then he has a right to mevatel her nedarim. So what do you need our Mishnah to tell you that this is this is the right that the husband has, which is more powerful than the father? Because if he got engaged to her begetis, and obviously he waited 12 months, when he has to feed her, he can annul the nedarim. So we know that already from the next Mishnah. So the Gemara, Hagu for Kash. So the Gemara, let me ask you a question. You tell me 12 months. Amrit had begetis rosh name as chaydish. The begetis lam nishar chaydish. Begetis b'lav yem sagila. We know the Gemara Ksubis Rav Huna says that a begetis. When do we give 12 months to get married? Only she's a naira. Our begetis is already all ready to get married. She's already prepared herself. So therefore, she doesn't need 12 months. It's only 30 days. After 30 days, you have to take care of her. So this is a side issue. Don't do with our main question here. What I need 2 missions for? Just generally, why wait 12 months? The 30 days is enough. Now, even though there's a machlekes gemara there and the halach actually does not work out like Rav Huna, nevertheless, that means we do get 12 months. But if she got true, but if 12 months, no, when she's 13 and a half, we argue with Rav Huna and we say that no, that if she got engaged on the day that she's 12 and a half years old, you got to give her 12 months. But if she's 13 and a half years old, then we all agree that all you need is 30 days. And because it's an open-ended statement of begeris, the husband can take it. So why say 12 months? Even though the halacha of Rav Huna, and sometimes there is 12 months, but the majority of the occasions, it's not exactly 12 months. It's only 30 days from when she got engaged. Says the Gemara, Tani, you're right. So what it should say in the Mishnah later on is either begeris or sheshasi yibei. Either she's a begetis, no, you don't follow Rav Huna, we follow the Chachamim, and therefore 30 days after she got engaged, the husband has to take care of her, and therefore he has a right to annul the nedarim. Or she got engaged at the age of 12 and a half, and therefore you wait 12 months. Our question still remains. Why do you need our Mishnah that the husband is stronger than the father because he can cancel the nedarim of his wife if he married her to begeris? When the next Mishnah, or later on, if in a couple of blocks, the Mishnah tells us that's the very same point that Rabbi Lezer says that if they got engaged 12 months later or 30 days or whatever it is, a begeris, that the husband can unilaterally, and no, we need 2 Mishnahs to tell you the same thing. Gemara gives 2 answers. Either he buys a mahacha dafka. Our Mishnah is the one that brings this innovation or this chiddush, this din that the husband has the right to know the nedarim of his wife if he married the begetis. The Mishnah repeats it there only because it wants to introduce to us this machlekes Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanan with that. So, but then in 12 months the husband can actually do it. Or he buys a begetis dafka. Really. The next Mishnah is the main Mishnah, which it's all about. So why is Amish even bringing it down? Because it wants to draw a contrast. I did not say Reisha, but then not to say because of the Reisha, you made a conclusion. You said that this is where the father is more powerful than the son-in-law, the chassan. So we bring you. By the way, from another perspective, there's the son-in-law stronger than the father. Let's just start the next Mishnah a little bit of Gemara. Next Mishnah. What happens? Nadra. She made a neder. He arusa. She made an neder, and she was an arusa. Nizgarsha boybiyim, nisarsa boybiyim. She got engaged. She got divorced. She got engaged on a Tuesday morning. She got divorced an hour later. Got engaged a half an hour later to somebody else. I feel Meya somehow or another she managed. She get divorced and engaged to hundreds of people all at one day. And so, what happens in this case? It's her father, as usual, 50%. But whoever the last chassan is on that day, it has to be all on that day, is the one who is made for her nedarim. Even though she made that neder during the first engagement, the 100th engagement can still, as long as all within the same day. This is the rule. If she did not yet have total control on her own, In other words, she did not become yet 12 and a half years old, and she did not get married yet, so she's not yet independent from her father. As long as she did not leave her father's domain, because she's still a naira and she's merely ma'ura, so only engaged, is baila achar b'findered. Oh, sorry, a via baila achar b'findered. It has to be a joint annulment, the father and the future husband. So oh, because it says possibly Yom Shammai. So she made the neder Tuesday morning 9:00. Doesn't matter who it is, you only have that day to annul it. Says the Gemara. And we'll see later that it doesn't matter who heard it. Whatever heard it, you only have that day to annul it. Says the Gemara, Menolan, how do you know the others achar made from the Dorim Shenidal the how do you know that a later chassan can annul the Dorim that were made during the first engagement? Shmuel says, and we're talking about that the chassan heard it, so therefore he has that day, the rest of the day to annul the first chassan, and the last chassan still has the same day. It says again, and she already had previous nedarim on her. Nedarim shahayu aleh kvar. It's talking about nedarim that you already had. It says and it says she already has baggage. She already has nedarim. She already has nedarim on her. Says the Gemara, the dan shaleh kvar. Says the Gemara, maybe, how do you know? That doesn't prove anything. Maybe that the Nedarim that she already had, it's talking about the first chassan, the Nedarim made prior to that engagement, so the first chassan has the right to annul it. Same question we had this before. If the first chassan already had the right to annul it because he heard about it, and the Yom Shammai, how do you know in that case a later chassan can still undo that which already there's another person who could have canceled it? So she need a lot of issue. And maybe the second artist cannot cancel a neder that was made during the first chassan, and the first chassan heard about it, and therefore he had the right and he had this the obligation to either cancel it or to confirm it. So the Gemara. The word Allah is actually action. Could have just said she made neder. She had already nedarim on her. It sounds like that even though she made the neder during a previous engagement, as long as the same day, you can go ahead and cancel. Okay, we'll stop over here.